So much. If you find anything missing, you can come back here and see. I bow to all the seekers of truth. And the truth that we are seeking has to be achieved, understood and felt through a very open mind. You cannot conceive the truth with your mental activity. And you cannot form your own ideas and conventions about it. Like a scientist, you have to keep your mind open to achieve it. Moreover, it is an evolutionary process, the process by which you have become a human being. And logically, it should follow that you cannot put in any effort to become the higher personality. You have put in no effort for your evolution so far. Thirdly, you have paid no money to become a human being. God doesn't understand money. This is created by human beings. God has no sense of money. And He doesn't know also perhaps how maddening it is for human beings. So you cannot pay for it. It's something ridiculous to think that you can pay for your ascent, or to say that you can go into a course of realization. Because it is the living process of your evolution, living process. If we understand the living process, you will understand Sahaja Yoga much better. If you have to sprout a seed, you just put it in the Mother Earth and she sprouts it. How much money you give her? She doesn't understand money. She only knows how to sprout the seed. So when you put the seed in the Mother Earth, it sprouts spontaneously, sahaja. Saha means what? With, ja means born. It is born with you, the capacity to sprout, the capacity to awaken your Kundalini is born with you. But it has to be the Mother Earth who has to do the job. Like every seed has all the maps of its past and all its future, you have those maps within yourself. And once you just become capable of getting enlightened, you get your enlightenment. But this should not put any diffidence into your mind. Many people start thinking that you have to do the cleansing first and then you get realization. When you are inside the dirt, how can you cleanse? So this Sahaja Yoga today is of this way, that first you get out of it. First have a little light in your lamp. The light is there, the lamp, if it is dirty, it is easier to clean the lamp which is enlightened than to clean a lamp which has no enlightenment. That's why first you get your self-realization. That is very important before we deal with anything else, that you must get your self-realization first. This is what Christ has said, that you are to be born again. He didn't mean some sort of an artificial baptism. He never meant that. How could he mean that? Logically, you must understand that if he was truth, he would not tell that you can have a false baptism. But what he has said, that by the Spirit, your spirit will be awakened. Means a person who has got his spirit enlightened can enlighten it. A light or a candle which is already enlightened can enlighten another light. But what has it done? Nothing. It had the light, the other one was ready, so the light passed from one to another. There is no obligation, there is no greatness about it, there is nothing special done. So, as far as you are concerned, you are all ready today to have your realization. Many people I have met so far, in the West especially, want to escape the truth because they say that, Mother, we have to cleanse ourselves. You go ahead with it. How many years you have been doing that? How many lives, how many ages? Now stop it. It's finished now. Better have your enlightenment and then see how you can very nicely clean yourself and see what's wrong with you. Moreover, it is very difficult to tell anyone, even if you see the dirt in a person, that this is dirty. It's better that, supposing there's something wrong with this shawl, I better take it out and see for myself what's wrong with it, and I cleanse it. In the same way, you have to get out of yourself, to see for yourself what's wrong with you. And that is how it will be much easier for you to clean if you know how to clean yourself. So you become the person who is the Spirit. The Spirit sees the defects in you, and the Spirit guides you and cleanses you completely. There is no more guide needed or no guru is needed. You become your own guru. Now, so many kinds of people have come to sell their goods in the market. You cannot sell God. And the one who lives on your earnings is a parasite. He cannot be a holy person or a saintly person. Christ did not take any money from people, did he? He was born as a carpenter's son, and he worked as a carpenter's son. But what is the purpose of his advent? Or what is the purpose of my coming to Boston is this, that we all deserve this higher state, is all your own, it is your right. I should say I am like a banker and I have to cash your checks. The purpose of this happening is complete transformation. The transformation has to take place. What is the problem of the world today is moral crisis. People are morally absolutely fagged out, tired. They have lost all their discretion. They don't know what to do. They are so confused whether this is true or that is true. Because we live in relative world. Everything is relative. This will do, that will do. Everybody is compromising. They don't know what is absolute because we have not achieved our absolute within ourselves. Now the most remarkable thing about the absolute, that is the Spirit, is that the absolute is the one that is collectively conscious. That's the one that can feel the another person. That's the one which knows about everybody else. That's the one which knows also about yourself. So far as a human being, the Spirit has not come into your consciousness. It's not yet enlightened. Means your consciousness hasn't got the light of your Spirit. The Spirit is in your heart, and this Spirit is just watching you as a witness. It has not entered into your consciousness, into your attention. And because of that, you do not know what is absolute, what is collective consciousness. When it happens to you, it happens in your awareness. It doesn't happen in your mental conceptions like I can give you a big book to read and then you become something great. Your own consciousness, which is a human consciousness, becomes a higher consciousness, which becomes collectively conscious, means it is an actualization. Like a person who is a human being can feel the dirt and filth, the colors, the beauty. But an animal cannot. So something has happened in our consciousness actually that we can feel the filth. In the same way, when you become absolute, everything that is not absolute starts negating itself, just disappears. And you become absolute yourself, which is the truth. You become absolute joy, and you become absolute consciousness. So far the consciousness has moved to the human stage in such a way that we have not felt that we have moved higher, because we were not made like that. At the human stage only we are made in a special way. If you see here, as you can see it clearly, that from the left side there is a blue balloon-like stuff rising. This blue thing is nothing but all our conditioning, which becomes what we call in Sanskrit manasa, but very closely we can call it a superego, where we are conditioned, don't do this, don't do that. We are born, say, as Americans. I mean, it's not true. You are a human being. God never created America. It is we have created America, England, these things. He just created a one beautiful world. So then you are Americans. Identification starts like that. Then you go ahead and you think we are Christians or Hindus or Muslims. Then you go ahead with that, and all misidentifications start accumulating within us, and all of them form an artificial thing called a superego in your head. All the conditionings, all the positions, all the obsessions, all sorts of things that you gather in many lives can be there, called as superego. And on the other side, we have got the ego, the one that we accumulate within ourselves or create within ourselves by our activity. Because we think we have done this. It's the ego. Actually, human beings cannot do anything. What they do is to explore whatever is dead. They cannot do living work. They cannot transform one flower into fruit, even one flower into fruit. All this living work is done by someone. We do not think how we are created, how this beautiful human being is created. We haven't got humility to understand that this something great has happened to us, that there is some sort of a force, some living force, some very kindly, loving force that has done this. We never even felt how we were created like this. Without any pains, we are created as human beings. And this great living work that is happening within us, who has done this living work? How it has come? We have never felt that all-pervading power of God that is doing all these things. Not only that, but it sorts out things. It's such a beautiful mechanism. Like a mango tree will give you mangoes. If it's an ananas tree, it will give you ananas. Like that, you have all kinds of different sorting out to such an extent. Your child will look like you. Who does all this sorting out? All this power that does all the living work, the scientists also have not turned their faces. They are honest, but they are not so educated. They are not so well informed. And their seeking is very limited because their brains are limited, their mental capacity is limited. If they have to go further, they have to become higher personalities to be able to see how we are created, how do we exist, and how this living force act. Now, for us, as we take everything for granted, we do not even think about it, is a good thing. Otherwise, we might go mad, thinking that we do not know about the power that does the living work. So we have an idea that we do this work and that work. What do we do? Supposing a tree is dead, we make this floor, church, this, that, all stones. It's dead from the dead. We have just changed the forms from dead to dead. What special thing have we done? And when we start thinking that we have done something, that is how we develop an ego. Like people going in a plane were told not to take too much luggage in a village. And they thought it's better to reduce the weight of the plane. So they put the weight on their heads, sitting in the plane. In the same way, we are putting the weight on our heads, thinking that we are doing this job, that job. The one who has created you, the one who has made you a human being, is going to make you high. Why do you take the load upon yourself? That's why Mr. Ego sits on your head like a heavy weight. I have to do this, I have to do that, without understanding the plan of the divine. That's how we have ego and superego sitting on our head, and we start feeling that we are something great. Now this happening has taken place within us because we are human beings. A dog doesn't have responsibilities as such. Whatever he does through his responses, through his superego. But human being has developed the ego, and because of that, his brain is closed now. He is like an egg. Now this egg has been specially made to become the bird. And that transformation has to take place, which is all built in within you. You have all these powers within you. It has to just to be clicked. And the warmth of the love of the divine has to work it out so that you become the bird of complete absolute freedom. This is what Christ wanted to inform us by his resurrection. And when we have Easter, you know that we have eggs. The egg is suggesting that you are the egg today, but on an Easter, Christ, as he became the bird, you also become the birds. And so we should say the time has come for all of you to become the birds. But it is impossible for human beings, because they are such made, I don't know how, especially in the West, to understand that there could be somebody who is genuinely interested in the well-being of others. They cannot understand because of their relative ideas. They cannot understand that there should be someone who should do this job, who should communicate with people who are seekers, to give them their truth and to give them their transformation, to put them up on their consciousness as realized souls. Now actually, in the movement of consciousness, when human beings were born, what they started sorting out everything on mental level. Everything on mental level. And whatever works on mental level, it works out in a linear manner. Like, there is no sustenance in that. If something starts moving in a linear way, it falls off, again recoils back. That's why today we are shocked. We have evolved so much, we have developed so much, we are supposed to be developed people, and then how is it we are on the brink of a shock? Why are we so upset? What has gone wrong with us? Where did we go wrong? Because we tried to solve our problems through mental efforts. Anything, take your politics, take your economics, is nothing but a mental effort. For example, economics says that wants in general are not satiable. That means there must be some want which is satiable, and we live in the relative wants which are not satiable. Now what is that want which is absolute, which will satisfy us? And that want is represented here as this triangular. In the triangular bone you can see the Kundalini, that is the pure desire within you, the pure desire to be one with the divine. And unless and until that desire manifests, all your wants will be changing from one to another. Like today you would like to have a house, tomorrow you would like to have a car, then day after tomorrow something else, then a helicopter, then an aeroplane, it will go on like that. But actually, to have your all wants satisfied, there is one want which is kept sleeping, as they say, because it has not manifested in the triangular bone, which is to be awakened, which is to be manifested. Now just imagine this bone is called as sacrum. Means Greeks also knew that it is a sacred bone. That's why they call it a sacrum. you can see the rising of the Kundalini, you can see the pulsation of the Kundalini, you can feel the percussion of the Kundalini like lap, 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 lap as the heart is. In some people it is quite a lot. And then you can feel the cool breeze coming out of your head. Now what is this Kundalini within us? The spirit is in your heart, but what about the Kundalini? Who is she? She is the Holy Ghost. She is the representation or the reflection of the Holy Ghost. But if you ask anybody else, they say, no, we don't know about Holy Ghost, it's a mystery. In Sahaja Yoga, nothing is a mystery. Everything can be explained. Now what is the Holy Ghost is? The Holy Ghost is the primordial mother, is the mother, primordial mother. But people never talked about mother. They talked of the father and the son. Now imagine a father and a son and no mother. It is absurd. Have you seen any father and a son without a mother? Such an absurd situation comes in that people accept it because it's all mental. Somebody tells you, no, it's a mystery, there's no mother, there's no, people accept it. But there has to be a mother. And this is the time of Aquarius, what we call in Sanskrit Kumbha, meaning the Aquarius is the Kundalini, where she nourishes, where she cures you, she redeems you, she guides you, counsels you. And this is the time of the mother. We had the time of the father, then of the son, and now this is the time of the mother, where she has to nourish you, where she has to take you to her ultimate goal, that is the spirit. The consciousness itself, the way we have been moving in other directions have been like people think that if a woman starts fighting for her right, and then she's asserting the femininity. She's not. What I'm saying is not meant for women or men. It's meant for every one of us, that we have to become like a mother, like a divine leader, like a person who can nourish people, who can give them love, affection, attention, perseverance, forbearing. And this is only possible for a mother to do it. And that motherhood should be awakened in every human being. I would say Abraham Lincoln you had, who was a great person like that. After that also, we have had so many great people in this world who have been like that. You can say in our country we had Mahatma Gandhi. We had many people of that temperament who were soothing, nourishing, curing, and helping others in such a way as a mother would like to nourish her own children. So this sense of nourishment has to come within us, but we have no power of nourishment, and that only comes when your spirit starts manifesting through you. When this power rises, she manifests her power of nourishment. She actually nourishes your chakras. She is the one who nourishes those subtle centers which look after the growth centers. She is the one who cures. She is the one who guides, because she informs you what's wrong with you, and she is the one who counsels you. Because once you become collectively conscious, then you start feeling the cool breeze in your hand, and this becomes like a computer. You become a computer of which you become the master. You are already a computer, if you understand. Because in a computer, if you put something, it cannot just see and say, it has to think. But we can just see and say things. As soon as we see, we know what it is. So we are already a wonderful computer, which no scientist can produce. But we become even conscious of that computer and become master of that computer, so that we know everything about whatever is not known to us, unknown. All absolute problems can be asked, and we can find out what's wrong with us. But it is not that the consciousness moves like a pendulum, like a woman fighting a man and becoming egoistical and fighting and shouting and then behaving like a man, or a man becoming like a woman. It's pendulum. But you move in a spiral way, to rise higher. And that higher point, you start seeing the things. Like a spring has a spiral you have seen, and it has a sustenance in it. It's not linear. When the spring loses its sustenance, it becomes linear. Like in the peptones, you see, in the pancreas, are all spiral limit. And human beings, though they have created so many peptones, with all kinds of amino acids and all that put into it, they are not even 5% equal to what natural peptones we have. But we make them linear by our wrongdoings, and then the peptones become linear and they lose their biological effects because they become lifeless. In the same way, our ascent takes place in a spiral way and rises higher than where it is. It doesn't move like a pendulum, a man becoming a woman becoming like a man. But what happens, you develop a higher consciousness. In that higher consciousness, you start understanding that now you have become the light. Now what is the light? Till you have to make the light, you work hard, you put it right, but once it is made the light, you put it on top, so it guides. Then it becomes the guru, it becomes the guiding factor, it becomes everything. That's how you become. So we have got the left side of desire and the right side of action. These left side and right side of action can be compared with the brake and the accelerator in a car, to understand it on a very gross example. And what happens that when we start learning how to drive, we get into the car, we use both these powers. Try to balance ourselves first of all. Balance the car is very important. And when we have learned how to use these two forces, then we think we have become drivers. At that time, we do it automatically. We don't think about it. That's what happens to you, that first when Kundalini rises above this center, you become thoughtlessly aware. That means there is no thought, but you are completely aware and alert. And when this rises from here, here is the seat of the spirit, though the seat resides in human beings in the heart. When it touches the seat of the spirit, then the master who is sitting at the back seat, watching you, you become the master, and you start watching these two forces within you, how it is acting, and also the driver within you, and you become the master. This is the second stage into which you arrive. Now, when we become thoughtlessly aware, what happens is that a thought rises and falls off, another thought rises and falls off. And in the center of the two thoughts is little area. Now, these thoughts may rise from the future or from the past. And the central part is the present. So when the Kundalini rises, what happens? You become stationed in the present where there is no thought. If I say you stand on the present, you cannot do it, because you are on the future or on the past, because of your thoughts. But when the thoughts are removed, you stand in the center of those two thoughts and you become thoughtlessly aware. And this state is such a wonderful state that at that time, whatever you see becomes a picture memory. Not only as a memory, but the joy of creation starts pouring into. You start understanding the joy of creation, and lots of powers you start manifesting, that at this time you can cure people. You can heal them physically, maybe mentally also. But that's not enough. In that also you should not get lost. Some people, of course, do it by some other forces, which are spirits. What they do is to put some spirits into a person, take out some spirit, transference of spirits they do. This is absolutely a different area into which we don't have to go. We have to do everything which is complete spirit, ourselves masters, knowing everything about what we are doing. You are never under the blanket, no darkness. You see everything, what you are doing, what you are getting, these powers that are flowing through your hand. You know what exactly they mean. They are all decoded for you. You don't have to research it, and you can only verify it. Like a gentleman who got his realization from me, and then he said, "Mother, I can't believe I can be collectively conscious." Because you see, the brains here are working a bit too much. The heart is less, the brain is too much. There's an imbalance between the heart and the brain. So I said, all right, try with your brain. I asked him, you can verify. He said, I want to know, please take the child out, please. Please find out, how is he said, I want to find out, how is my father? I said, all right, you just put your hands like this and try to find out, how is your father? So he says, Mother, I'm getting a very great heat here and it's burning, a very funny feeling here. So I said, all right, if that is so, these are all the centers that are indicating your father, and if it is in this finger you are feeling it, then you must know that he must be down with very bad bronchitis, because this finger denotes the center here. So he telephoned to his father in my presence, and his mother came to the phone and she said, he is down with very bad bronchitis, the same sentence she used. So that's how you can feel it. So you must know that in the realm of God, we are really fantastic. We have to enter into the realm of God. We have to become the citizen of God's realm. Then only you'll be amazed that he has the greatest capacity that you cannot imagine how dynamic it is, how it works. There have been so many incidents in Sahaja Yoga that people can tell you sometimes how miracles after miracles have taken place, which they cannot explain how it has worked out. Not miracles like getting a diamond and giving you. One should understand that those people who go after diamonds are not the people who are seeking God. They want diamonds, they can get it in the market. Some people who start jumping, they think they have become godly. How can it be? Are you going to become frogs now? We should understand also logically what is going to happen to us, that we are going to be empowered by a power which we should know how to handle. Otherwise, no use doing all these tricks these days people are doing. Some people start just jumping, some start shouting, screaming, some becoming dogs, some becoming like a lion. You are not to go to your subconscious now, because God has placed you so beautifully. Your subconscious is on the left-hand side and your right side is your future. So there is a room kept for you in the center, like you have made a room here, like there is a room there. But the idea of the psychologist here was so confused that some of the Indians maybe have taken a little clue from that, and they have come here to take you down to subconscious, which is the easiest thing to do, is to take down to your subconscious. And that's why they have done. They have mesmerized people, started these cults, and these false gurus have come, and they are just doing nothing but taking you to your subconscious, where you get caught up and possessed by the collective subconscious, and you think you are in the best position because you don't know where you are moving. You have no idea. So the best thing for us is to see what we get ourselves, what we know ourselves. Some people have given 6,000, some people have given 50,000. But for what are you giving money? It is something I can't understand. And I came about 10 years back to your great country, America, and they couldn't understand me when I said you cannot pay money for this. And they threw me out. You see, they wouldn't take me seriously. They said, oh, what are you talking? It's nonsense. How can you do some things without money? So this is what it is. But I think after 10 years of good lashing from these people, they have learnt a lesson now. They are coming round and they have been now kind to me. So you must understand, one has to be humble about it. It's only the ego that makes you think that you can purchase God, that you can organize Him, that you can organize God, organize religion, organize all that is divine. You cannot organize, as I told you, changing of one flower into a fruit. Then it is too much to think that you can organize God. We must humble down within ourselves, and that's how it works out. It works out, it has worked in thousands, and it should work out everywhere. I'm sure in Boston also it should work out. But there are categories and categories of people that I must admit. For example, Steve, I must say, is a special category. He met me only once in Bristol. One program he had come, just all you have to come, and then he came to see me next day. Actually, person to person, he met me only once. And then he said he has to go to Boston. I said, very good idea, go to Boston, and I hope I'll meet you there. And when I came to America 2 years back, he just sent me a telegram. He said, Mother, I'm in Boston, will you come here, we'll have a program. He was occupying a small little room, and sweetly invited me there. I said, all right, I'm going to Boston. And people said, Mother, you don't know him very well. I said, I know him very well. I'm going. And I came here, and we had a program in Boston, and today, because of the quality of people who are running it, we have a nice, proper center where now many people can get their realization and settle down. But there are categories of very egoistical people also, of very funny people. Like some people in the church came to hit me with the Bible, you can imagine. In the church they came to hit me with the Bible, no other place. And all such people are there. But those people who are of that category are the best, who get their realization in no time and settle down. Some people have physical problems, and that's why also they cannot get realization. But the people who have been to false gurus and have bent their heads before them also are very difficult. They have to little bit patience with them, first of all, to neutralize the effects of this false, and then they get realization. But some of them, I was amazed the other day in Toronto, I gave realization to some people who have been to those gurus, and they just threw away everything because they had reached right conclusion that they have not found the truth. They had not found the truth, and they had just thrown away everything apart, and they got their realization too. So we have people and people. We have people who coming to Sahaja Yoga also after that they become very violent, very hot-tempered. They are not so well organized, and you find that their temperament doesn't look like a realized soul. But all kinds of people come to Sahaja Yoga. And the negative people will always see the people who are at a lower end and see them and start criticizing, or look at him, he's a Sahaja Yogi. Sahaja Yogi is a person who has achieved a balance in life. A person who has achieved the mastery over Kundalini. The one who has all the knowledge how to raise the Kundalini and how to give realization. Sahaja Yogi is not every Tom, Dick and Harry. This one should understand, but everybody comes to Sahaja Yoga, everybody is allowed to come. We have all kinds of people, all types of people. But the Sahaja Yogis are a special category who mature, like a seed which is just sprouted, has to be looked after very tenderly, carefully, respectfully, and then it grows into a big tree, and when it becomes the tree, nobody has to be told. You don't have to tell them by oath that this is a tree. Everyone knows this is a tree. So this is how it works out. Those people who are positive about it get it into their heads first of all, and then into their hearts. I am sure it will work out even here, and there are so many people here, it should work out with all of you. I didn't know that the program is only for 2 days. In any case, 2 days I'll be here, that is today and tomorrow. In this short time, whatever is possible, I'll try to cover. But the knowledge is like an ocean. But you become the knowledge itself, which I'll tell you how you become the knowledge. And you don't have to listen to too many lectures to understand me. But as far as I'm concerned, I've been lecturing and lecturing for the last 10 years. And in London, if you see, there are thousands of lectures of mine, which you can see for yourself. This happens much better in a place where people are not so complicated. Thousands of them can get realization. People who are here I've seen. Thousands of Indian villagers get their realization. But maybe people are much more oppressed by the modern society, modern ideas, maybe that they take little time to grow, but doesn't matter. You are people of great adventure and people of great qualities. You are saintly people, you are men of God, are born in these countries, all over. Even in England I saw so many people who are men of God. And as William Blake has said, that men of God will become prophets and they will have powers to make others prophets. That's what you have to have. So many of you are saints, that's why you are born in such a nice country like America. It's such a highly blessed country, it's such a great, beautiful country, and then you have to make the best out of it. May God bless you. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Was that audible?
Yes, very good. Yes.
I would like to know God, and I do pray to Him, and what you said right there
Okay, that's good. He really wants to know God. He prays to God. You said that this is the Christ Center here.
Did I? Today
how-
I did not. But it is true.
How long will it take him to know God?
Split of a second. Split of a second. And it will happen in a split of a second, no doubt. But nothing is guaranteed. You see, you cannot say if all the seeds will sprout at the same time, but it is guaranteed that it will, ultimately. All right? There is no time for God. God does not know time.
Any other questions? Yes.
Please stand up.
Say you become enlightened, and you see things together, consciousness. And what happens after you physically die? What after that?
After you get your enlightenment, your self-realization, and you start to become integrated, what happens to you physically after, what happens to you after physical death?
You see, that we should not be futuristic. Why do you want to think of death? I'm talking of life. But of course, I've given a big lecture on that. You can take a tape and hear about it. But just now we're talking about life, not about death. All right? You are a realized soul. If you want, you can take your birth again, do what you like. You are a free bird after your death. There's nothing like death after that, because you enter into a realm where there is no death. You know you are dying and changing this body, and you can take the body again. It's a very different awareness. All right?
Yes?
Do I need faith in order to know God?
Sorry?
Do I need faith?
Do you need faith to
No,
know
not
God?
at all. You see, faith, if it means blind faith, that's on the contrary, is very dangerous. Those people who have blind faith are very dangerous people, because they really are bound to certain mental aspect of it, you see, and they are bound to some sort of a mental conception that this is God, this is God, this is God, is wrong. But you must have an open mind. Even if you deny, then it's not proper, because you keep your mind open. It's like sunshine. If you are facing the sunshine, you will be affected by sunshine. But if you hide yourself from sunshine, the sunshine is not going to run after.
Who taught you your technique? You said that you need a light to light another light. What was your technique?
You better know me when you are enlightened. You see, the thing is, I don't want to talk about myself. The trouble is, Christ just said that he was the Son of God, all right? And they crucified him. That's a fact, he was. But they crucified him, and I don't want to talk about myself till you have your enlightenment. When you have your enlightenment, then you will know about me, all right? You better have your light first, and then you know me. Otherwise, it's difficult. I'm tactful in this lifetime. I don't want to get crucified.
If you had an operation on your lower back, where that kundalini is down there, and it's in pain all the time, can you still have enlightenment?
Yes, you can. We'll have to put it right. And so many people have got it even with their back broken realization. First their back is put right and they feel all right. And then they get the kundalini rising. Not difficult. It's a repairing system. It repairs you. But if something is dead in you, supposing you have put some steel sticks into your legs, we can't remove it, you see. That's how. If it is a dead stuff inside, we cannot help you. But if it is a living machinery, it repairs. It just gets repaired. It has to be a living thing inside.
Yes.
When the Kundalini rises up, does it always maintain that position? Or does it ever go back down?
When the Kundalini rises, does it maintain that position or does it go down again?
That's true. It goes down also in many people. It goes down. It comes up and goes down. You see, in some people it does. I mean, I would say that it remains very much there. But with many people it goes down. And the reason why it goes down is because It comes with a flood, you see, because it faces me, it knows me, it comes up like a flood. And then it goes down because you need nourishment in different centers. Supposing you have a problem somewhere, it goes and nourishes you. Then again it nourishes, very sweetly it comes up again. But if you know, once you have touched this and it has come out of it, and if you know how to raise it again and again, you can bring it up. That's what you have to learn after realization, and that is called as Shuddha Vidya, means the true knowledge of divine activity. Once you know that how to, it's very simple, you have to use only your hands. Like this you have to move it and bring it up. You have to give yourself a balance a little bit, only because it's flowing through your hands, that's all, and you can manage. It's not difficult, you can establish it. Little bit in the beginning, about a month, you'll have to work it out. But not all, I'm saying just few people really get it, like we'll say Steve was like that, he got it.
Yes.
What's he saying?
Is all of this really happening?
Yeah. It is too fantastic to believe. It is happening, has to happen sometime. God who has created this creation, you see, is worried. And he has to look after his creation, isn't it? He is anxious. It has to happen. After all, we are not responsible for this creation. He has created it, so he has to jolly well look after it. It's happening. You can't believe it, isn't it? It will work out. Have faith in yourself. That's all. You must have faith in yourself, in nothing else.
Yes.
Couple of questions. While doing Sahaja Yoga techniques, which I have been taught,
Visions are not all right. You should not see visions. That means you are not normal. You are on the right-hand side. If you are on the right-hand side, you start seeing visions. The other day we had one boy who used to see auras and visions. But he told me his head is heavy all the time. He feels very heavy. And that he doesn't feel all right. And we had to remove that. Because you must see the present, the reality as it is. At the time of Christ, people started seeing visions of Moses. But Christ was there living, they denied. They were thinking of Moses. They had the visions of Moses and Abraham. What about Christ who is living? Now today I am here, now you will think taking visions of Christ. What about me? I am here in the present. So you have to be in the present, not in the future or in the past. But when you see visions, it could be from the past or from the future. Like in India, people see visions, and they have their own visions of the Devis and goddesses and all that. And then they deny everything. They say that, no, how are we to believe in Christ or his mother or anything? But when they come to the present, they understand that they were all there. They are there in the present. Because you become one-sided. Vision is not a normal thing. It's not very good. And those people who see visions end up into very bad life. Very bad life, because it's not normal. You will know gradually how you see visions also, what happens to you. But after realization, you just come in the center.
Yes.
In Sahaja Yoga, does the Kundalini go beyond the crown chakra?
What is it?
In Sahaja Yoga, does the Kundalini go beyond the 7th chakra?
Of course. It can go beyond, much beyond. But depends on, see how you are. It has to go. It is for the complete growth of a person. There are 3 centers above that, which you have to cross. There are some people who have crossed it, no doubt. There are some. But you see, they are very assiduous, I should say. Also, they are a category, I should say. There are so many things about them, a quality itself. You can ascend much more. 7th chakra is the beginning. It's just the beginning.
I have a couple of books, one by Paramahansa Yogananda and one by Sir Ramakrishna. I would like to know if they false prophets.
You see, I don't want to talk about personal things. You see, because I don't want to shock you about things. But you yourself will find. All right? you get your enlightenment, you yourself can find out what is false, what is real. If they are real, then you will start getting the cool breeze in the hand. If they are false, then you will get even blisters in the hand. So one has to understand what is real and unreal by one's own understanding. And you will discover it in no time. Hatha Yoga is just a wee bit of real Patanjali's Hatha Yoga, and is absolutely wrong because it makes you very one-sided. You become physically attentive, but you are not only a physical being, you are a mental being, you are an emotional being, you are also a spiritual being. So this is just such a wee bit. If you see the book of Patanjali is so great, and in that whole Sahaja Yoga is written, Sahaja Yoga is written, while they have taken only the, just like jogging it is another style of jogging. So should we have now the realization? There's a lady there? Now, that's the last, huh?
She answered the question about death by saying, put the attention to the future, to the present, not to the future.
Just now. It's not important. I'll tell you all about it. It's nothing. What's she saying? I think you come and see me, I'll tell you all about it, all right? Because just now we don't want to spoil the minds of people, all right, with the death and all this nonsense. Just now let us be in the present, all right?